Hi, everybody. It's Josh with Talk About Trek. We are back again today, back to the bread and butter of the channel here, talking about Star Trek books again. That's right. We did finish up just today, after a nice, lengthy 2 to 3 hour session this afternoon, Greg Cox's Lost to Eternity. Now, this is I think it is like the newest actually published Trek book. Let's see, this was published. It was published last year, and in July, I believe, July of last year. So this, along with the Strange New Worlds book by Una McCormick, Asylum, which is next, I think are the two newest ones. So this one was great. First off, before we get too into it, I'll just give you my general impressions. All right. I want to say that he's done this before, and I think he's very good at it, but Greg Cox is a master of telling this kind of story, or basically taking these three stories and weaving them together. And I'm going to have to go back through my notes and see, because I swear I just read something else recently by him where it was a similar kind of thing, where you had these three separate stories that all kind of weaved together, and came together there in the end. So, and that's what you had here as well. Let's jump right into the back cover, which I am only just now reading. A thrilling new novel from the Star Trek The Original Series movie era. And also other eras. 3 eras, 3 mysteries, 1 ancient enemy. Wow, this is very wordy. Alright, get ready, here we go. 2024, almost 40 years ago, marine biologist Jillian Taylor stormed away from her dream job at Sausalito's Cetacean Institute and was never seen or heard from again. Now a new true crime podcast has reopened that cold case, but investigator Melinda Silver has no idea that her search for the truth about Jillian's disappearance will ultimately stretch across time and space and attract the attention of a ruthless obsessive with his own secret agenda. Whoa. Now, 2268. The USS Enterprise's 5-year mission is interrupted when Captain James T. Kirk and his crew set out to recover an abducted Federation scientist whose classified secrets are being sought by the Klingons as well. The trail leads to a barbaric world off limits to both Starfleet and the Klingon Empire, and an ageless mastermind on a quest for eternity. The Osori, an ancient alien species, has finally agreed to establish... 2292. The Osori, an ancient alien species, has finally agreed to establish relations with its much younger neighbors, the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans. A joint mission involving ships from all 3 powers, including the Enterprise A, turns explosive when one of the Osori envoys is apparently killed. Each side blames the others, but the truth lies buried deep, nearly 300 years in the past. Anyway, man, that is way too much. They're giving away way too much on that background. And again, if you don't know, Sweaty Boy, I don't read the backs before I start the book, because I feel that they do give away some things that maybe you don't want to know right off the bat. And for sure, I definitely would not have wanted to have all of this information. It gives away the big twist of when one of the envoys is apparently killed, right? Yeah, anyway. Very wordy back, and you didn't need to read it to enjoy the book, right? So, what I liked about this book, I think, probably the most, was and it's kind of silly too, it's like the least kind of Star Trek part about it, but it's an interesting look at something. So again, you got the 3 time periods, and in the 2024, the current period, you have this podcast journalist, and she's trying to track down the mystery of what happened to Jillian all those years ago, in Star Trek 4. So that part was very cool. And definitely, probably one of my, I guess what I'm trying to say, it was an interesting look at a Star Trek event from a new perspective, which I thought was great. So you have someone who is trying to track down the mysteries of what happened, those couple of days there. following up all the clues, which of course is all the little scenes in the movies, that you remember. And just it's very interesting to see the scenes that we all know and remember from that movie. Like the garbage men seeing it, and the people that like get blown away, the joggers that get blown away. When they take off at the end, and just the other little kind of mysteries and things. The hospital incident, the miracle pill to grow that lady a liver. You get to see that through a completely different light. The light of this investigative journalist trying to solve this mystery. So that part, very cool, right? So that's just the first part. Now the second part, which, as I said, is in 2268, so this is like in the midst of the 5-year mission. This part also very cool. Very much like just your classic TOS. TOS book for me. I've read a lot of them. Just your classic adventure, your classic Kirk adventure, even getting thrown into a gladiatorial arena, right? That seems to happen to Kirk an awful lot. But it's kind of, you get your classic adventure. You've got some Klingons to contend with there, and of course they're visiting a planet with humanoid-like people, basically look just like humans, right? And but they're like less civilized, so they're back in their kind of the gladiatorial age, basically, right? So that's a classic Star Trek thing to do, and that's awesome. And then the third section, 2292. So this takes us basically, I think, to in the movie era, right? And this part touches on all of the, I don't know, kind of like the exploratory side of it. The part of Star Trek where they're introducing a new species, and looking at themselves through like a different lens, right? So this was interesting as well because you have this highly advanced race, right? And everybody wants to be the first to meet them. So basically the Romulans, the Klingons, and the Federation all agree to meet them all at once. And then they're going to head to this planet called Nimbus 3. They're going to have kind of like a talk, right? A peace talks, and see if they want to start reaching out and having contact with the greater world. They're kind of, I think they're actually, the book even starts out that the planet itself, when they get there, is like cloaked or whatever, right? So they're isolationists. They've stayed away from the greater world, but now they're willing to take a chance and come into the world. So now they're going to be on this, basically they're on this trip. And then the interesting thing that they do here is that each of the 3 ships, you have the Enterprise, the Romulan bird of prey, the Harrier, and then the Klingon battle cruiser, the Lucara, right? And each of them has their own interesting cast of characters involved, but each of them will have an envoy, but then they also each rotate a crew member. So Saavik and Taleb, who's one of the Romulans, they go to the Klingon ship, while other people go to other ships. You know what I'm saying? The third story is a Saavik story, which is really cool, and I really like that fact too, that she gets to take the center stage in it. And I was reading a little bit further, and Greg Cox actually read the, I suppose there's like an origin story, and it's TOS number 49, which is what I'm looking for right now. Hang on. I'm probably not even going to have it. 47, 48, 49. Don't crash any Enterprises. Okay. We're back. Here. There she is. So anyway, the Pandora Principle, he read this before writing this to get Saavik's backstory, which is in this. So, maybe that's going to be on the list coming up here. Maybe. Anyway. Very cool. Very cool. So, alright, so again, we're in the third time period. The aliens, the Osori, are also very, very interesting. They are described as reptilian with like bright orange scales. They have 3 eyes. They have one eye like right in the center, and then they have 2 eyes, like one here and one here. I tried to draw a picture of that, and let me show you my artistic skills. Look. So picture that. You can't even see it. But that's kind of, you get the idea. The 3-eyed reptilian alien who wears like a metallic mesh poncho. And one of the most interesting about them is their long silver gloves, which appear to be like coated with like liquid mercury, right? So there's your mind's eye. You can now picture the Osori, and there are 3 Silu Glendi. Oh, I don't think I wrote the other name down. But anyway, there are 3 of them, and basically they are sent to kind of assess the how far along the people have come. Are they able to, make contact with them, or are they still too far behind, right? All right, so let's just get right into the story. If you don't want to be spoiled, you probably wouldn't be watching this video about me talking about the book, I would think. But anyway, so you have the 3 intertwining stories, and gosh, how did I see? I know I was telling another story like this recently because I had to tell the story with the 3 stories. Oh man, it's going to drive me crazy. And I bet it was a Greg Cox book too, wasn't it? Shoot. Okay, anyway, don't get sidetracked, Josh, with talk about Trek. 3 stories starting in 2024. Melinda Silver and her tech partner Denny, who kind of runs the tech side of things, she is on the trail of Jillian Taylor, right? Taylor. Okay, and so again, this part of the book is very cool because you're getting to see Star Trek 4, the events from Star Trek 4, as if like it were like a mystery that someone's kind of piecing together, right? Which is basically exactly what he did. And it's just fun to see how all these little things that happened in the movie, like that weren't even like a kind of like a big part of it, are now like the main part of like this story. So she follows along and gets along very well. Basically follows the story right along to the point in the hospital, has basically met and interacted with everyone who had any kind of touch on that, who was part of that at all, except of course like the government and the military and everything that happened there. So, and as she gets closer to like the source of the mystery, then they dig up some more information basically, which leads them to this this biotech firm. I'm saying basically a lot, right? But anyway, they get led to this biotech firm where they eventually meet up with this Orlando. Oh man, I didn't write down his last name anyway. But they meet up with this guy Orlando who's obsessed with basically extending his life, right? So keep that in mind. So then the second story in 2268, the Enterprise is okay. There's been a hijacking. A space pirate or a mercenary or something has basically hijacked an escape pod and taken a hostage to get away, and has flown the escape pod outside of Federation space into kind of a disputed territory between the Federation and the Klingon, right? So the Enterprise has been dispatched to Seacade. The hostage in question is one Dr. Hemparian, who is a brilliant doctor who is working on longevity kind of things. So, So yeah, so they're dispatched, and there's this planet. I want to call it Ataz or Atraz, and we probably got it wrong. I took some notes, but I didn't take the notes that I needed, apparently. But anyway, they get to this planet, of course, humanoid-like planet with this gladiatorial arena in this big city. And when they get there, they spot some things that they shouldn't see, right? They see this tower, and on this tower, that some solar panels up there, maybe some radio antennas. So they kind of get the idea that maybe that's where they should look for their good Dr. Hemparian, right? So they end up getting getting themselves into some trouble, getting caught, getting thrown into the gladiatorial arena, and here you get you get your classic like TOS battle. There's a Klingon lady commander down on the planet too as well, Yorba, and she gets caught up in the action as well. So it's just like, again, I said before, it's like a very much like the original series, like what you would see. I could expect to see that in an episode, right? You'd see Kirk getting thrown into the arena, he's fighting with these people. But anyway, they stage a big escape, they get out of there. But the basically the person that kidnapped the Doctor was this guy named Sarath. And this Sarath is also very much interested in extending his life and has basically kind of set up shop here in this place so that he can run his experiments without the Federation or anyone else coming in and stopping him from what he's doing, because he's doing some things that are very unethical, or just stuff that really shouldn't be done. So, but he is basically stopped. Like I said, he attempts to get Kirk and them killed because he kind of realizes that they're going to ruin what he's got going on. But Dr. Hemperian, at the kind of last moment, changes her mind and is like, see, initially she was brought to the planet on purpose by him to help and to also do her work as well. But, she decides it's not worth the lives of Kirk and his crew, changes her mind there in the middle, and, that's how Kirk and the crew are saved, basically. Again, so it's a fun little story. There's lots of action in this. It seems like that's where kind of the most of the action is centered here in this kind of middle story, while the third story has it spoiled on the back cover. One of the Osori is thought to be dead. And what happens here is that this Klingon Dr. Kesh, he actually fakes an emergency, gets Saavik, Taleb, and the Osari to get into an escape pod and to blast off from the ship. And then they fake an explosion and beam away to some unknown location, right? So now you have the Romulans, the Klingon, and the Enterprise all kind of standing at odds with each other, thinking that, something has happened. One of these three is, in on this, obviously. So this is, this is not like the action part. There's so much good kind of like diplomacy and also just kind of fun stuff here as well. There's some interesting characters. The Romulan captain is a very interesting character. He wears a monocle. Very cool, right? There's a Klingon commander who's particularly funny. He's a really big guy who's very boisterous. So there's a lot going on in the third story too. It's very cool. But the main portion of it centers around Saavik and basically what she's going through with the Osori Silu and the Romulan envoy Talib, right? Because they have actually not died in an explosion. They have been transported away to this kind of hidden laboratory inside of an asteroid. So it's very secretive, very, very hard to find. So the goal is basically this Dr. Kesh wants to examine the Osari. And the Osari are very long-lived. So he's very interested in that, and he wants to find out the secret of how they are so long-lived, right? Do you see the similar thread here, right? So anyway, this is getting on very long. We're just going to kind of wrap it up here at the end, I think. So you have these three different stories, and you have this one similar thread, right? Which is this man who is obsessed with eternal life, right? And this is the Orlando who Melinda encounters. And in the shocking end to her story, which I was shocked, as I just said, this guy, well, there's a bit of a scuffle. Her partner gets killed, kind of his own fault. But then this guy puts her into cryo sleep, right? And do you know when she wakes up? In 2292. So anyway, in the ending of the second story in 2268, they escape from the arena. Of course, the Klingons or the Klingon commander calls down a strategic strike and destroys this guy's tower, his lab, and all of his stuff. And now he has to move on. So Siroth has to find a new identity and a new place to make his lab. His new identity was the Klingon Dr. Kesh, and his new lab was inside of this asteroid or whatever, right? So I love how everything just wound together right at the end. It came together so perfectly. And it was interesting, too, because the bad guy, for all that he does, is not even all that bad, right? And it's revealed that he is basically like an augment, and that he was genetically altered before he was born, right? And then through that, and through also various bouts of cryosleep, has been able to continue his mission to live long and prosper. No, to live long and to keep studying and finding a way to, live forever. His interest in the initial 2024 part was, of course, him chasing down the miracle cure, the magic pill that Dr. McCoy gave Miracle Millie, as she's called in the book, right? And she's, she regrows her whole new liver. So, and then the fun thing about that and how that ties back too is in 2268, when Dr. Hemperian goes back to the Federation, she does have to face some kind of discipline for what she's done, but she does get to continue her work, which they say is very interesting because she's working on developing a pill to grow a kidney. So that was cool. That was very cool. So the pill that she was developing was the same one Dr. McCoy used in 2292, or beyond or before, to save Millie. How cool, right? Very cool. I love that little connection there. That was great. So, and anyway, the story comes to a head basically with Saavik and Sailu in the clutches of Kesh, and Saavik's like kind of looking for her first opportunity to escape, right? They get the opportunity, they lock this guy out of his laboratory, and then they go searching around. They find Taleb, the Romulan envoy who's been frozen, and beside him in another pod, who do they find? Melinda Silver, frozen since 2024. And they unthaw her, and it's her who's able to basically talk Kesh down. And that's how the book ends, too. Not with any grand battle or fight, but basically with her talking to him and making him realize that what he's done is kind of taking him beyond the point that he wanted to go, And that's great. I mean, that's a very cool ending, I think. And the Osori, they decide that maybe right now is not the best time to be getting out into the greater wide world here. So they decide to just head back to their planet, and maybe they'll check in a few generations and see if everybody else is kind of up to their level yet. So, and at the very end, of course, I love that you finally get this little bit of closure where Melinda actually goes to San Francisco and meets Jillian Taylor in 2292. And Jillian Taylor is talking about some very fun stuff about how she is working on developing a universal translator that can talk to dolphins and whales and porpoises and other things like that. So here at the very end of the book, you have this awesome little nod to cetacean ops, right? And I'm going to love that. That was fantastic. So what a fun book. And also just fun to be reading the newest Star Trek book, right? I typically will go back to the past, but it's fun, and I'm going to actually jump right into the next one, Strange New Worlds Asylum, right after this. So, Greg Cox, thanks for this Lost to Eternity. It was a lot of fun. As always, my friends, live long and prosper, and we'll see you guys in the next one.